Thanks for coming out to the basement of the conference here. Hopefully we'll have some great information for you today. My name is Brian Bulkowski. I'm CTO of a company called Aerospike, the NoSQL database company. Our fine friends here, Larry and Andy from Yashi, have graciously host a meetup for us to talk about their experiences scaling their business. We'll talk about their business and what it's been like, and any questions you guys have about what it took for them to scale, et cetera. We can keep it pretty interactive. We have a nice small group here. So I'll turn it over to Larry, and we can talk about that, and I've got some prepared questions, and we'll sort of go into a free-form session. So thanks for coming.
Thanks, Brian, and thanks, guys, for coming out today. Obviously, you found us in the dungeon here in the back wing of the whole thing here, so we appreciate you coming out here and listening to our story, some of the challenges we came across, and some of the things that we've done in making our business scale to the level it's at today. So I'll just give you a quick overview of what, a little bit of background of who we are and what we do, and then we'll just get into an interactive discussion, like Brian said, and I guess everybody could jump in. So what is Yashi? Basically, we're a video demand-side platform. Are any of you guys familiar with the AdTech space? Okay, so I know you guys do. Basically, what we are, I'll just say that we're a video demand-side platform here. It's easier to illustrate it to you if you're not really familiar. We do analyze over 40 billion opportunities per month. So these are a publisher has a space on his website. He has an opportunity to show a video when somebody visits their website. These are opportunities that are sent to us, and we have an opportunity to bid on behalf of our clients that have logged into our platform. So we're doing that at over 40 billion times a month currently. We're integrated with all of the major video ad exchanges, and that's providing us these massive opportunities that we spoke about. Our company as a whole, we've had continued annual growth since 2007. In the past 3 years, we've been named to the Inc. 5,000 fastest growing companies. And our primary focus and our differentiation from other video demand-side platforms is our location focus. So a DSP and how it really works. If you look here, you'll see our goal is to help the advertiser. You see Yashi here, and we have the DSP. We're tied into the exchanges. We spoke about those before, and we're tied in with all the major video ad exchanges. There's LiveRail, BrightRoll, Adapt. Who else do we have? AdX, NextAge, all the major players that are out there. And what we want to do is help those advertisers reach their target audience through the publishers that make their inventory available on all the exchanges. So how we're doing that currently is through a process called real-time bidding. If you can look at this graphic here, it's a little bit crazy with what is going on, but if you look at us at the top, that's Yashi and our platform. Advertisers, we sign advertisers on to work with us. They'll load up their campaign information, their goals, their targeting criteria, things like that, into our platform. If you look in the middle, we have clusters of bidders. They basically, they'll take the information, so they'll get loaded up and say, hey, these are the metrics for the campaigns and the targeting criteria that we want to deliver on. They'll take that information, and they're also receiving the opportunities from the major video ad exchanges at the bottom. So all those opportunities are flowing to each of the bidders, and they're deciding in under 100 milliseconds is what we're required to respond, whether or not we want to bid on that opportunity. A little bit of a brief overview of our infrastructure. We're currently hosted in SoftLayer in multiple data centers with I think we're well over 100 bare metal servers right now. Those are dedicated servers, actual hardware, not a cloud-based solution. All of our real-time bidding technology is proprietary software that we've developed in-house. We also work with a couple of third-party data providers. We'll talk about them a little bit later. And we also obviously use the Aerospike database, which has been a huge lifesaver for us in certain user management and cookie-based things that we were trying to do. And we have several other NoSQL database solutions as well. We want to talk about scalability. Obviously, this is a Scale Warriors conference, and our technology is basically built to scale with as many different exchanges that we hook up to. We can just throw more clusters of bidders per every exchange, and that'll just increase our volume. We'll continue to scale, and that allows for our redundancy as well. And that's basically all I had for the brief overview. I guess we'll just get into the talks and any back and forth we may have.
So why don't you start off? You mentioned that you're in SoftLayer with 100 servers with bare metal. So maybe you can share with us a little bit of your voyage to getting there, what you tried before, and why you're sticking with them currently.
Sure. As I spoke about, this is a bare metal server setup that we have. Obviously, we tried the cloud solutions. Many of you may be familiar with AWS. The way we designed our software, we were having quite a few challenges when we were trying to utilize their cloud. It would make a lot of sense. It's very good for companies that are just starting out, or you can kind of spin up a server if you're doing a little bit of work. But when you're trying to deal with the volumes we are and the test, because we understood the volumes that were going to come our way, we had to prepare and try to test and put that that throughput into the AWS cloud, and we just weren't able to get it the way we had our stuff configured. Maybe you can get into it a little bit more, Andy, of some of the detailed challenges that you had.
Yeah, I think the big problem we had with AWS was a lot of for their standard servers is a lot of their servers share resources between their instances. So we were really getting throttled on our network side. We would spin up a server and we would just hit like a wall at some point, and we wouldn't be able to push any more traffic, and if we had to, we'd have to spin up a new server, and the price to spin up enough servers to handle what we were looking at, which was just a test, by the way, it wasn't live traffic, would have been extremely high. I know they made a few changes, and I think we even looked into it with their dedicated boxes, but at the prices that they were per hour and everything, it just made sense for us to go to a bare metal server, something that we have like complete control over. We can do whatever we want. So SoftLayer made a lot of sense for us instead of AWS in that sense.
Another important factor here, and it may help you guys, and if solutions that you're looking at for your own things, SoftLayer was able to provide us with a private, unmetered, dedicated internal network. Everything we were doing through AWS was shared, public, and we were just getting crushed on prices. When you're pushing that kind of data through.
On our internal network, we push out terabytes and terabytes a month. So with AWS, they do have some type of AWS to AWS, but we were seeing a lot of our bandwidth being sold to us instead of it being free. So with SoftLayer, we were able to get that private network. It was super fast and very reliable for us.
So maybe you could share for one aspect of real-time bidding, which is when you're bidding on an exchange, so someone has to call to you and say, hey, there's an opportunity out there. Maybe you could walk through for a second, what kind of request is that? Is that like an HTTP REST request? Where does it come into? How many of those are happening per second? What's the peakiness of that kind of traffic?
Yeah, I guess it could be an HTTP GET or POST, depending on how we're actually integrated with the exchange. There are some exchanges that will do a client-to-server integration with us, where they'll actually send the user to us, and so that'll be an HTTP GET request. And then a lot of the exchanges are server-to-server, so we talk to their servers, and that's going to be a POST usually, where they're going to send us all the user data because we can't see them. Usually we can grab their browser information when a request comes in, but since it's server-to-server, they have to pass us everything. So on that, it's an HTTP POST. As for the rates, thousands and thousands a second. It depends on the exchange, where we're open to that exchange. I think AdX is probably our biggest exchange, and they could push out 40 billion a month on just like YouTube, and then they have their whole other network, which I believe is about a little smaller, maybe like 20. So from them alone, we could see up to 60 billion ads a month, and that's just one exchange. I think we're integrated with about 7 other right now, and working on more. So that number grows very, very rapidly.
Another thing to point out, I think, is that how you said that from AdX alone they have the up to 40 billion opportunities or whatever. This is just what we're actually interested in. We have the ability with the exchanges to dial in to certain geographies that we care to see or certain players. We can modify the traffic that actually comes to us, so we're not just wasting opportunities. No sense in trying to process them if we're not going to do anything with them. So they allow the ability for us to like throttle that a little bit. So so that's where you'll see.
There's a lot of different metrics that go into kind of, do we really want to see that? Like we try not to see as many like really small players, like 300 by 250 or smaller. Usually they tend to be somewhat fraudulent, so we try and like just block them out completely if possible. So if we wanted to see everything though, we would see quite a bit more than 40 billion.
Okay, so when you started this infrastructure scaling project, you realized you had to both take a bunch of HTTP requests, and that was always going to be gets and posts. So your first thought was going to probably be what HTTP framework to use, and what language to use. So what was your thought process as you went through your first technology choices there?
I think we did quite a bit of little R&D before we really got our foot into anything at all, and we were looking, I believe, see if we could handle it with like something like Apache or Nginx and just do something like that. And we figured out that was 1, not feasible, and 2, probably too slow at that. So we just decided to kind of cut and do our own HTTP server. So we have our own proprietary software that we really use to handle those requests. And it's not fully like HTTP compliant, but for what we do, it works for us. It cuts out a lot of the overhead that really you would see on Apache or something, and it just makes it a lot faster for us.
Yeah, I mean, when you have to operate at the speeds that we are, any of the bloat that you can cut out, you want to do that. We have no interest in most of the other garbage that comes through, and that's exactly what they had built.
So then, do you also have a front-edge load balancing? Do you use SoftLayer's load balancer, or?
We have a software load balancer, HA proxy. We kind of deployed it ourselves. It's very easy to set up. It's been great, very configurable. We use it actually in a few different places, not just on the front end that receives all the requests, but just internal load balancing as well. When we're hitting different databases and we need to have a few different databases to handle that load, we'll balance with that. It's been a great tool for us.
Okay, so you've decided to go with your own HTTP server, you've written all of that. So it sounds like you're probably in C at this point.
Close, C++. All of our technology, I would say, other than our front-end user interface is written in C++. We have a couple scripts written in Python, Perl, but just about everything that runs the service is C++.
And so I think I was asking you earlier what your experience was with hiring, because a lot of folks say, well, C sounds like a great language, but what about one, the speed of development, and then the second question is how do you find C programmers?
I mean, for us, I guess we're from the Jersey Shore, so we have a lot of colleges around us that actually teach C and C++, at least in part of their curriculum, or if not all. Like I went to Ramapo, it's a school in North Jersey. Their curriculum is solely or mostly in C++. There's a couple other courses, but I think a lot of the schools around us teach C++ as either part or the core of their curriculum. And that's really when we hire, that's who we try and hire. We try and go to the colleges, get some new people, and teach them rather than go out and get the big established guys.
So a lot of the companies I know in this space do a lot of analytics on the backside, and they have a huge amount of Hadoop and that kind of infrastructure for research analytics. And from our discussion before, it sounds like you guys haven't gone down that route. You're doing a lot more in real time. Maybe you can talk about that kind of that part of your architecture.
Yeah, we try and do all of our analytics in real time. We don't try not to run batch processes at all, just because we're always getting information, and we're usually getting more information than we're getting the last second, since we're continually growing. So batch processes become hard when you do that, just because you're still running stuff and you're still getting more information. When does the batch process really happen? Like, when's a good time? So we try and really have all of our data kind of rolled up already, easy for us to access, and we pass it along, and when we need it, we grab it from a rolled up database. It makes everything very simple. Unless we have to go back and do some type of further analytics on all of our data, we don't do any type of batch processing or Hadoop or anything like that.
Okay, and what are you using for monitoring? I mean, Velocity, walking around the show, it just seemed like there were a huge number of monitoring companies out there, right? It seems like almost flavor of the month.
Yep.
So what are you guys up to in that?
We are actually using, our main monitoring software is Boundary. Apparently it's a fairly new company, but they provide us with great analytics. We could see all of our servers at a glance, graphed how their CPUs, their memory, their network is really like performing at that second. And I believe I think they keep up to a year worth of data for us. So we can really go back, see like week over week or month over month how our servers are performing now compared to before. They've been great to us, and would highly recommend it. We also have a few just kind of scripts that we kind of make ourselves to monitor all of our servers as well, just to make sure our server, even if it looks all right, like it's running all right, maybe something is bottling it up and we're getting slow response time. So we have a couple just scripts running every once in a while to make sure our servers are all up and running.
Another thing to point out too with Boundary is we initially tried Nagios. I'm sure pretty much every talk that I was in today, everybody had some flavor of Nagios that they used. We did try it initially. There was a little bit of, quite a bit of configuration that can take place. So we tried it. We had it running for a little while, but Boundary had approached us, and really I just want to say it's the ease of use and how easy it is for you to plug in like a monitoring beacon essentially. And it's off and running. There's not much else to it.
Yeah, I feel like Nagios configuration is almost like a full-time job in itself. You have someone that really sets up your monitoring, and that's his job, is to configure and keep Nagios running. And we, at the size company we are, we really didn't have that person that could do that. So, I mean, Boundary, I can put up 15 servers in a half hour. So it's time-wise, it made a lot of sense for us.
Cool. Any questions out there based on some of the things you've heard?
In the previous PowerPoint slide, you said one of your key differentiators is location-based information. So just first question would be, how are you getting the location data? Are you using, MaxMind or Digital Element, something like that?
Yep.
And then the second piece is, are you global or are you mostly in the US?
Yeah, as we are now, we're mainly focused in the United States. Obviously, wherever our customers or clients want to reach, we can easily do that. We just spin up a data center close enough to get our response times under the 100 millisecond threshold. To your other point about the Geo Lookups, we're actually using digital elements, as you spoke about. So we're able to provide them with the IP address, and they give us a quick lookup. That's obviously goes into all our decisioning.
Yeah, we actually used to use MaxMind, and we found that Digital Element was much more accurate than MaxMind. And I guess one other place we do get our geo information from, and this is especially true for mobile, is the actual exchanges will pass the information themselves. Just especially with mobile, because if you actually look at your IP and where it resolves to on a cellular phone, if you're using like a tower, it's nowhere near where you are. So like when I'm in New Jersey, my phone will actually resolve to a New York IP address. So if we do targeting for that, it's not going to work. So for mobile, we really try and, unless it's on a Wi-Fi network, we'll try and use the data provided us by the exchange, since they usually have a GPS coordinate or something like that.
Any other questions? Was that you? No. Well, I have some more questions. So you were mentioning a moment ago about fraudulent, the fact that some of the smaller video requests are fraudulent. So what do you do for fraud detection?
So internally, obviously, we have a lot of pattern detection algorithms and things that we have written ourselves. So, you know, it's pretty obvious when you start to see the patterns of the traffic. So obviously we have alerts that will let us know when those things are happening there. We also have a couple third parties that help us identify those as well. Because, you know, obviously our word, that these guys, it's like a arms race. You know, there's always somebody else trying to beat the system and game the system. So we use our own proprietary stuff, and then we use other people to verify it as well, third party.
Okay. And one thing you mentioned was the user sync problem. So this common problem in advertising where, you know, you've got various different cookies, various information from various sources. Maybe you can walk through that a little bit and some of the data sources, databases you were looking at for that.
Sure. I mean, one of the big things we do is obviously try and find the right person for the advertiser. And to do that, we have to use a bunch of third-party data and sync up the users that we're seeing with that data. And to do that, most exchanges provide some sort of user sync. So they'll pass us the person, we'll cookie them, we'll identify them really with, you know, just a generic ID, and later they'll send us, you know, these guys are interested in whatever they're interested in. There are a lot of users on the internet, obviously, so that database, as you can imagine, grows quite fast and very big. So what we had to do, I mean, starting off, we tried, you know, small scale. We were using like Mongo, Redis, trying to just figure out a good solution for this. I think I probably tried about 6 different databases as we were scaling to try and solve this problem. Eventually, we found Redis, or not Redis, I'm sorry, Aerospike. And Aerospike really let us...
the other Redis.
The other Redis, yeah. And Aerospike really let us scale. The SSDs were great because I think we have hundreds of gigs, if not terabytes, of data really stored in our system that we, like Larry alluded to before, we have to access everything in under 100 milliseconds. So Aerospike really let us kind of, you know, get that data out very quickly and scale, you know, wherever we are in the world. So if we want to set up a data center in Europe or Australia or wherever we are, we'll just pop up a data center and have our Aerospike kind of sync itself up, and then we're good to go, and we have all that data out there. So it's been a huge help for us.
So it sounds like you didn't have to reinvent a lot of stuff. It was pretty much an out-of-the-box experience.
I tried to reinvent a lot of stuff. It didn't work.
Cool. You want to tell? You had a little thing about targeting beer via temperature. You want to tell a little bit about that, or is that too secret saucy?
No, that's okay. You know, I guess this was a little bit we were talking before about, you know, our customer feedback loop, and because we're a smaller company and agile, we're able to listen to our customers. You know, we have a lot of local customers as well as, you know, national, but some of our salespeople are out there. They're dealing with the local customers. And one of the requests somebody had said was, you know, some beer company had said, hey, you know, we're only interested in advertising our summer brew, you know, when it's above 75 degrees. And, you know, we came back and we thought about it for a little while. You know, we could probably do something around that. So, you know, what we do now is we obviously tie into NOAA. We hourly update all the zip codes. We get their temperatures, wind speeds, or whatever the case may be, and we allow the advertisers to choose, hey, do you want to advertise? You can only show this creative if it's above 75 degrees.
Yeah, we do that for temperature, precipitation, and wind speed. Just in case you want to advertise when it's windy in a hurricane or something.
Kites when it's windy.
Advertise home restoration in hurricanes.
It's a nice marketing piece. It's more for the marketing, I'm sure.
So where do you see this business growing? I mean, so you're more exchanges. That's clearly important to you. What else? More decisioning, more user data? What are some of your big targets over the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, what we're seeing is, a lot of the networks are kind of trying to become an exchange, and when that happens, obviously, then we're always willing to do another integration with them. So we'll integrate as many people as, claim to be a video exchange. Mobile, we're also heading out in the mobile space as well. We have a couple of those in place right now, and then we're actually going to touch into the display as well, and limitless exchanges at this time.
Yeah, and as our feedback loop with our customers continues, we'll probably target more things like weather, as well as I think we also want to stay on top of fraudulent activity and that's an ever-growing problem and it never ends, and so we'll have to develop more methodologies or do whatever we can to try and limit that as much as we can.
So any thoughts about the effectiveness of video on mobile? Like, what are you guys seeing? Is it people are finding it pretty effective? Just getting their feet wet? Where's the market at?
I think a lot of people are getting their feet wet right now.
Yeah, it's new. I think the problem is there's not a lot of standards that are in place right now, or if they are, people have modified a hack just to get something going. So, we're finding a lot of the challenges with the mobile is, here's the parameters, here's what we're going to send you, then we integrate to that spec. All of a sudden, nothing works. They're like, oh, well, we changed this because we had to do it for this. So although there's standards, nobody's really adhered to a common standard like the video ad exchanges have over, obviously it comes with time. It'll get there. I think it's just new.
And I think in-app, again, I'll stay on the fraudulent topic. In-app, there's going to have to be a whole new way to detect if that in-app, because we're not dealing with websites anymore, we can't just have a blacklist or see if it's viewable. There are some in-app, fraudulent activity as well, and that's a whole new scope of everything too. So trying to figure that out. And I think with a lot of publishers out there right now, they're still trying to figure out where video fits in. I think in the early days, anyone who played Angry Birds would notice that there used to be a video in between every level that you played. And I think they removed that because people complained about that. So I think a lot of advertisers are really trying to figure out, especially in-app, where mobile video belongs and where mobile banner belongs. So that's something ever growing with them as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned viewability, which of course is a hot topic in advertising. So mobile viewability is still kind of an open topic. What are you guys doing and seeing on the display side? Well, your metrics are pretty good, and you're feeling pretty comfortable about viewability?
For videos?
For videos,
yeah. For videos, I mean, there's, obviously all the common metrics, the quartile reporting, 75% viewed, 50% viewed, 25%. Was the player on the active tab? Was it muted? Click to play? All those metrics are there and in place, and most of the advertisers have gotten comfortable with, this is what I want my campaign to run on. They have their set metrics. So video seems to be kind of commonplace and standardized now. Mobile, we don't know where that's going to end up. I have kids, and I know that they click on every freaking ad that they see, so I don't know if clicks mean so much on the mobile and the tablets, but we'll see how that goes and how that pans out in the years to come.
Sounds great. So where's your company at right now in terms of sort of size and funding and cycle?
Yeah, right now we're just north of 30 employees. We're obviously located in the Jersey Shore, as I told you there. We're profitable. Other than that, we don't share too much. We try to keep it tight, but that, I guess that's about it.
Well, it sounds like, given where you are, profitability was important. So, right. You've said a lot about being able to scale on a budget and being able to hit your targets. So it sounds like these infrastructure choices were really crucial to hitting that, as opposed to being, say, the high growth, high flyer. Who cares how many servers?
Right. That was important to us. We spent quite a bit of time on the R&D. Like I said, an AWS, when you're just getting started, that makes a lot of sense if you're running a small website or something like that. But then once you get into the volume that we did, we say, well, look, we're going to have to bite the bullet a little bit here because it's not going to keep up and we're going to get crushed. We saw the data data charges we ended up getting crushed with, you know, and things like that. So when you are dealing with a big scale, obviously there's money that goes with it. But yeah, we've been able to maintain profitability, and that's been an important thing for our founder since day one.
Any more questions? Back?
So kind of curious on kind of the Aerospike versus Redis argument, not so much a versus thing, but what are some of the key benefits that you see using Aerospike that have allowed you to keep under that 100 millisecond?
Really, it's the size of the database that we can hold in memory, or not in memory, but query very quickly. So with Redis, you're really only limited to, they used to support SSDs, they no longer do. So you're only limited to what you have available in memory, and it's a lot cheaper to buy a terabyte SSD than it is to get a terabyte of memory. So for Redis, like the Redis comparison, we really use Redis for very small databases, for message passing, for stuff that we can easily keep in memory. And stuff that we don't really have to replicate cross data center, because that's also kind of annoying with Redis is the replication, they do have it, but it's much easier to have the master replication that we have in Aerospike.
I just want to second that point, because I remember that was a big concern for us, and the cross data center replication, or whatever, the duplication between the two nodes, it was such a concern that we didn't want to screw it up, and configuring a Redis or something like that, we didn't want to mess it up. Aerospike took care of that right out of the box, and we couldn't believe it. We were watching it actually build the second node up, and we're like, wow, this is great. So it was a cool thing.
I have a very open-ended question. I hope it's not too open-ended in the time of the evening. So you help customers decide how to bid, but how can they decide when and why to bid? Who helps them do the calculations?
Well, we have a managed service team. So our platform is obviously a self-serve, but it's also a managed service as well. So we have sales folks and customer development reps, and they understand the system. So usually in the sales process, the way we have it now, although somebody wants to be a self-serve, they still need a little bit of coaching to understand the platform, because otherwise they're on the phone the whole time. How does this work? What do I do here? What do I do there? So there is a little bit of coaching and optimization. Again, it's a feedback cycle where we can, you can kind of explain to them what to look for, which exchanges perform better for what you're trying to do. What kind of criteria or what geos do you want to focus on?
Yeah, usually the advertiser will know what they want to see, whether it's, I want a lot of people to watch my video, not necessarily click it, but, watch it, or they want a high click-through rate, or, as for when, maybe they only want to advertise at night. Maybe it's like an online casino, and that's your big, people browsing at 2 in the morning. They might go gambling. And so they usually have an idea of what they want to target. I think our sales team and everything really explains to them what we have available for targeting. And we try and work with them as best we can. If there's something they want but we don't have, again, that's how the weather kind of came up. So we always have that feedback going on.
Good question. So you've said that the value is kind of decreased as you have more data put into the database. Would you say that if you double the amount of data, does it double the value for an advertiser? Does it change exponentially, logarithmically?
It's hard to say because it really depends on the advertiser. I mean, there's some advertisers that just want to serve in the US. They don't care who, where. It's just, serve it, and I just want my ad out there. And then there's, there's these customers that want to serve when it's sunny and 75 plus, and they only want to serve within 5 miles of a beach, and stuff like that. So it's really hard to say. Like, for some people, it could increase the value a ton. For other people, they'll never touch the feature. So it's really up to them how much value we add to that.
Any other questions? Great. So you want to wrap up, or?
Yeah.
Anything you want to say about Yashi? But, thanks all for coming out.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming out.
Hopefully this was informative to you. You maybe learned a few things about either the advertising business or their path to scaling.
I just want to thank you guys for having us also.
Yep.
And thank you guys for coming down to the end of the hallway again. We appreciate it. And we'll be hanging around here for a little while if you guys want to ask anything on the side, and we'll try to share our experiences with you guys.
Yep. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.